Hello, everyone. This is a tier list I've been meaning to do for a while that I'm excited to be here doing today. I'm a little sick, so my voice might be a little off, but I'm going to try my best to get through this. I was really feeling it, so thought I'd take it on. This is all the modern Doctor Who stories. This doesn't include, obviously, like novels or audio dramas or anything like that. Like, obviously, those are like it's borderline whether those are even fan fiction, you know? Like, they're technically canon, but, like, does anyone really say you have to, like, listen to all of Big Finish to to have experienced all of modern Doctor Who? Like, no, of course not. So, I feel like, the episodes themselves are the canon, but, like, the comics, the novels, and, like, the audio dramas are, like, sort of expanded material, extra material, like little bonuses if you want extra stories. It's pretty much just reading fan fiction, and like the core narrative is the show itself. So these are all the show stories, and by that, like what it means is they're combining two-part episodes, so like or two or three-part episodes. So like for example, here's Aliens of London World War 3. That's one continuous story divided into two episodes, so like it's counted as one, which I think is the best way to do this. If they were like dividing every single episode up here, it would be kind of a mess. So unfortunately, it's annoying that it's not all in order. Like why is Boomtown first instead of like I don't know. Anyway, that's a little annoying to me. But anyway, let's jump in. Enough dilly dallying. I don't know how many parts this is going to be. I don't know if I could brute force it in one, but we'll still have to see. We'll see as we go. Anyway, let's do our traditional rankings: God tier, high tier, mid tier, low tier, shit tier, and then we're saving one last tier for Love and Monsters. You'll see why. It just belongs in its over here. Anyway, guess we'll go in the order that they give this to us. Okay, we'll start with Boomtown. I love Boomtown. And this is coming someone that hates Aliens of London World War 3 and thinks it's awful. Boomtown is so fucking good. It's just like, to me, Boomtown is like everything that season 1 of the modern show was. Like it's just like the character dynamics are just perfect. The comedy is just top tier. It is probably the funniest episode of Doctor Who in my opinion. It's genuinely hilarious and like not like, oh, we're trying to be funny, like, oh, this is just very fucking funny. And it just like the characters are naturally have such good chemistry together and just really like gives you this like oh, this is like a found family, and really cements that with the season 1 crew. So for me, I'm gonna put Boomtown in high tier. I love it. It's very underrated. The Unquiet Day is awful. It's very boring. I don't think I have a single good thing to say about it. And if it weren't for like the story thread elements that like you need to understand to keep going with the story, then I would say skip it. So it's going in shit tier. Aliens of London World War 3 also shit tier. I understand its point in the narrative of season 1, but they could have done it much better. Like it's the point where like, okay, Rose and the Doctor have been off traveling for a little bit now, and like it's time to come back for Earth and like show that like, okay, we're bringing the sci-fi aliens to Earth, and this is like and like the Earth crew and like what's going on with Rose's family and like how they're gonna deal with it. And like I understand that at this point in the season you needed that, but like come on, so they really have to do like farting green boys like it's just so shitty. That's it. Anyway, Rose, the series premiere of the modern show. I should probably clarify for those watching that don't know. So there's Doctor Who is divided up into now what's going to be 3 shows, but really 2 shows. There's what it's now called Classic Doctor Who, which is everything from the 60s through the 90s. and it's the first 8 Doctors, if you count the Eighth Doctor in the TV movie, and then the show was revived in the mid 2000s. And that's the with a 13 season run, and that just came, technically, I guess they're coming to an end, starting it again. I don't know, it's weird because the same, and that's the ninth through the I guess 14th Doctor, you could say. Yeah, so anyway, first episode of the modern series revival series, Rose. It's a good start. It's a little cheesy, but it does what it needs to do and sets up the story. I'm gonna put it in mid tier. The Empty Child as Dr. Dance is Stephen Moffat, who, famous or infamous depending on who you are in a Doctor Who fan now. I'm sorry, like, sure, he does some things that are a bit problematic, but overall he's like a huge part of why modern Doctor Who is what it is, and like what the nature of the series is. So like, you got to give him so much credit. And the first story, The Empty Child as Dr. Dance, was already like off to the back with a great story. So it's going in high tier for me. The Long Game, pretty good. Could have been, a little, again, some like unnecessarily cheesy elements. It's very much a setup episode for stuff that's going to happen later in the season with Bad Wolf and the Parting of the Ways. Yeah, it was fine. I'll put it in mid tier. Bad Wolf and the Parting of the Ways. Great season finale for season 1. Does everything it needs to do. It really ties together all the story threads from season 1. Really, showcases the 3 core characters of that season very well, and gives them stuff to do between Doctor and Rose and Captain Jack. And it's always sucks when the Found family gets split up. This is right after Boomtown too, when the Found family is at its height, and I have a weakness for those kind of episodes. So yeah, I would put this in high tier. Dalek, this is this was the revival of the Daleks, which the Daleks are such a core part of Doctor Who. They were the first recurring villain in the original series, and so obviously it was a huge deal to bring them back. I think this episode's a bit overrated. It's I get the point of it. It's oh, this is one Dalek and they're a huge problem, and it's building up for the finale where it's a whole armada of Daleks. I think it's a little overrated, but it's still very, very solid episode. So I would put it mid tier, high tier. I'm gonna say mid tier. The End of the World, second episode. I really like this one. I think it's the first a good indicator of what the show is going to be like, and definitely has some cheesiness, but it has so many memorable moments in it, like Cassandra, the the Britney Spears bit. It really is filled with memorable moments. This is I would say out of all, other than probably The Empty Child and the Doctor Dance, this is when you think of the Ninth Doctor, this is the Ninth Doctor episode. I really like this one. I'm saying it's going in high tier. Father's Day, great episode. I love the conceit of it. I love time travel stories where the time travel is personal to one's timeline. Obviously, I'm a huge Doctor Who fan, so going to the very far-flung past and future is really cool, but the time travel stories that ends up being my favorite are hypothetically, let's say someone goes back 15 minutes in their past to go edit something and runs into tries to avoid seeing their old self, how Prisoner of Azkaban handles that kind of time travel. Steins Gate's a perfect example. That whole show is that kind of time travel and time loop situation, and this is sort of like that. It's Rose going back to a thing in her own lifetime, which is really cool, and I really like that. But the whole issue with this episode is that it introduced a concept in the universe that is completely retconned out, and it's frustrating. So it establishes the idea that, okay, there's these entities that sort of keep live in the time vortex, and like if a timeline is fucked with, they feed off that energy, so they'll come in, and it's like it never comes back no matter how many times timelines are fucked with throughout the series. So like if you're gonna introduce a big huge like world ending, like not world ending, but like, you know, a big huge like lore impactful concept, and then you can't just forget about it, you know. So because of that, I think I'm gonna have to knock this down. I put it in high tier, but I think it goes in low tier. I mean mid tier for me. Christmas Invasion is like textbook mid tier Doctor Who. It's the 10th Doctor's first story, so it has a special place in my heart for that. But like very unmemorable monster and the Sycorax. Do they even ever come back? I think they like come back with like the whole Pandorica opens kind of thing in season 5, but like it's just like unmemorable monster of the week, unmemorable like conflict, like story. I mean, like it's the run of the mill like average Doctor Who episode. I'm gonna put it in low tier. You know, could have been better. Tooth and Claw, also low tier. That episode kind of sucks. School Reunion is like School Reunion is what Love and Monsters could have been, where it's like incredibly cheesy, but it's so fucking fun that like it like kind of like is like, okay, like we can look past school like the cheesiness. And it brings back Sarah Jane, who is like a huge character from the original classic series, and it brings her into the modern continuity, which I think is really cool, and she is recurring after that. So I really like that it literally takes it like it's the first real episode to be like, okay, we have a history here, you know, that we're going to pull from. Like, hey, like this is a beloved character that would still be around and alive and doing stuff in the modern continuity. So why not bring her in? It makes sense for her to be here. And it's like, it really like affirms that like, hey, this is one big series, one big story. It's not just like two separate shows. So I really like School Reunion, mid tier. New Earth, first episode of season 2. Pretty cool. Pretty cool story. Could have been better, but it introduces a lot of like recurring concepts for Wesley Davies' run. Like, I mean, the concept of New Earth, the Face of Bo, different things like that. Yeah, I think this is a good episode, but definitely could have been better. I like the return of, you know, it really gives like Cassandra a lot of empathy for her character, because she's a meme character and a gag character for a while, but it gives her like, okay, like sort of like a sadness to her, and like I don't know, you feel empathy, and I think it does a good job with that. So I'm gonna put it in mid tier. Idiot's Lantern, so it's kind of shit. I really don't like the vibe of this episode. I don't like the feel. I think the plot of it is like kind of dumb. It's bad. It's not shit tier, but it's bad. Wasn't expecting to see this this soon, but I guess I should have. Love and Monsters. This is the worst episode of the show. I was going to say that, but then I remembered an episode later on that you'll probably know what I'm talking about. It's contender for the worst episode of the show. It is unfathomably bad, to the point where it's like it rolls around into being good. It's like watching The Room, where it's like The Room is such an enjoyable experience to watch because of how abysmally awful it is, and it's like unfathomable how awful it is. Love and Monsters is that, but in Doctor Who, it's unfathomable that this episode got written and approved. Like, it's unfathomable that it made it into the show, and it's so fucking fun to watch because of that. It like I absolutely love watching this episode, and also admit that it is the worst episode of Doctor Who. I gotta get Zach to watch this at some point. Did Alberto and Jen watch it? I can't remember, but like, it is just so insanely awful. So yeah, it gets its own special tier. Anyway, Girl in the Fireplace. This is Stephen Moffat's second outing on the show. I really like this one. I think it's very good. I think a lot of people say it's overrated. I don't think it's overrated. I think it's a very solid high tier episode. I don't really have any problems with it that I can remember or think of. This is overrated. Rise of the Cybermen: Age of Steel. Everyone loves this episode. I think it's just low tier. Like this story. I love the conceit of going to an alternate universe where things are like slightly different. I love that conceit where it's like, okay, like Rose's dad is still alive. Rose's mom and dad never had her. You know, and like the different little like domino effects of like what certain decisions would be like in an alternate universe. Cool concept, but like it's kind of like a really cool concept, like completely muddled down by the Cybermen being there. You know, like this. It's like, okay, we just have to make this like a generic Cyberman story. This was the first Cyberman story in the modern iteration of the show, so it's like, okay, like sort of they're introducing them back into canon, but like these were two concepts that I think should have been separate. Where it's like, okay, you do your reintroducing Cyberman episode, and you do your alternate universe what if differences episode separately. And so that's why it gets into low tier for me. Fear Her, it's shit tier. It's shit tier. It's there's nothing good at all about this episode. So yeah. Possible Planet at Satan Pit. I love this story. I think it's really unique. Really cool. It might be the first time that Doctor Who, at least the modern series, takes like a really big concept and says like, hey, like what if like let's like rock our understanding of this a bit. And then obviously it goes into like, you know, the concept of Satan and the concept of evil in the universe and like where that originates. And it's like it's an interesting approach where it's like doesn't necessarily like explain everything, where it's like, okay, we're going to explore this big concept, but we're not going to like give all the answers. We're not going to say this is this, like, oh, what if the moon was an egg for a dragon? We'll get to that episode down the line, but like so yeah, I think this is a really good episode. Also just introduces the Ood, who are very fun. I think the cast of like side characters could have been better. They're not memorable at all. They're like, you know, episodes where you go to a space station or a ship or something and there's these crew there that's like, oh, like it's like a Doctor Who episode format. They go to in like, of course, like 42 episodes like that. Yeah, they're always not very memorable. Occasionally they'll have some good crews like the Waters of Mars, but like yeah, that's probably the only strike against this episode, but I still think it deserves to be a high tier. Army of Ghosts Doomsday, this was incredible when I first watched it, but it doesn't hold up as well at time. I think with time, I think the whole Doctor / Rose situation and their separation of like soulmates is handled incredibly and tragically, and it makes me cry every time, and it's so good. But like the actual plot itself of like, oh, not only we're fighting the Daleks like last season finale, but now the Cybermen are here too. Oh, big fight between Daleks and Cybermen. Like, it's... Can you tell I don't really like the Dalek and Cybermen episodes? Can you tell? I think if it weren't for that, this would be high tier. But I'm going to put it in mid tier. The Runaway Bride, low tier. It's obviously the first appearance of Donna in the story, but who's an incredible character, but she wasn't really fully developed yet, and the plot itself within the episode is pretty bad, so it gets low tier for me. Smith and Jones, this is mid tier or low tier. It's Martha's first appearance. I love Martha. I think she's a great character, very underrated character. She gets a lot of shit when she's actually like a really good character. I think it's just because she followed up with Rose, who's the best character in the show, in my opinion. So I think that's like why she gets a lot of shit, but I think she's still good. Um, I still think I'm gonna put this low tier. It's not a great story. Shakespeare Code, another low tier dud. Could have done so much with the Shakespeare episode, and they chose to do crap. that's basically it. Gridlock is probably, in my opinion, the most underrated episode of the entire show. I think this is one of the best stories in the whole series. I think it is an incredibly fascinating concept of like an ionic traffic jam that kills you. You know, like it's like and it's like, what if we take the concept of a traffic jam to its absolute like logical extreme, to where like you move like a mile in a year, like it's like everyone's stuck in this traffic jam and can't get out. Like I think this is such a fascinating story, and they do a really good job showing different like types of people who are in this traffic jam and like what the context of why they're there, and the conceit of why it's happening in the end is really, really well done and really interesting, and is a really good like dystopian sci-fi story, which I think is like, I think it's just a unique original story, and I think it's one of the best, honestly one of my favorite stories in the series. So it gets God tier for me, even though a lot of people don't like it. Blink, this is probably the most famous episode of the show. Which is interesting because it's a Dr. Light story in which like the Doctor and the Companion are not around for very much of it. It's mostly a story with original characters set in the universe. It also introduces the Weeping Angels, who are one of, if not the most iconic creatures introduced in the modern series. They're incredibly cool. This is, obviously got to be high tier for me. And the original characters, like Sally Sparrow and stuff, are like great. Like they do really good like characterization and development like within one episode that they get. I think like it's very surprising to me that they haven't brought back like Sally Sparrow like for like a one-off episode. It's very surprising to me. I mean, I know she's obviously a bigger actress now. I can't remember her name, but like, yeah, like tempted to put in God tier, but like, it's a pretty perfect episode, but like, it's not one of my personal favorites. But yeah, it's iconic. Lazarus Experiment, I think this is better than I remembered it being. I remember not liking this episode the first time I watched the show, but when I rewatched the show in 2020, it held up a lot better than I remembered. It is cheesy, and the CG is like pretty abysmal. But, like the story itself is really cool. Like the concept of a scientist trying to make like an anti-aging machine that eventually like fucks with the human genome and like DNA, and eventually like takes elements from like past possible evolutions to create like a it's cool. It's really cool. I'm gonna put it in mid tier. 42. I hate this episode. I think it's like the concepts could have been so cool of like, okay, it's a 42-minute episode and it happens in real time. Like we are going to say this is like okay, we get to a place, we have 42 minutes. Like let's show the 42 minutes as they unroll. And really cool idea, really cool conceit, but it's like the most generic cast of characters, the most generic shitty space station environment, the most generic like monster of the week. It's just like you take a cool concept and just do the most generic, lazy like execution of it possible. So yeah. Why is it out of order? Like why is everything like so mixed up here? Yeah. So we got Voyage of the Damned. It sucks. Like it's not shit tier, but it's like, because there is good elements of it, but like there's not really much here. I think it was like it's a fake out episode to tease a potential new companion that like isn't actually going to be the new companion, because it wasn't announced that they were bringing back Donna yet. So they're like, okay, like let's like tease at what it could be. Yeah, it and like the whole thing where it's like at the end of the season 3 finale, when like the Titanic, just the cliffhanger of the Titanic crashing into the TARDIS, I'm like, oh shit, they're gonna do a Titanic episode. Like that is sick. Like I'm excited for that. And then they do Space Titanic with an entirely new plot. Like like it disappointing. Human Nature Family of Blood is crazy in that the first time I watched the show, I did not like this story at all. The second time I rewatched the show back in 2020, this became one of my favorite stories in the whole show. I might be God tier. It might be. It's just so interesting and handled so. No, it's not God tier because I'm just remembering the kid character, like, and the whole like scarecrow shit. Like that part of it sucked, but the rest of it was just so good. Like, it's so interesting to explore like what happened. Like, what if the Doctor were like what if you were the Doctor and didn't realize it? You know, that's kind of the concept of the episode. Like, human. Obviously, we know he's the Doctor because that's the whole conceit of the episode. And it's David Tennant, but like, your memories are wiped, and you just think you're a guy. You just think you're a guy living in the early 1900s, and it's like all these people you're slowly remembering things through dreams and like journaling and like you're slowly remembering all these weird like sci-fi adventures, and you're like, what, this is weird. And like some people are trying to convince you that, hey, there's more to you than you think. And it's like what, how do you cope with that, you know? And it explores it in the best way possible, I think. And it crushes me every time when you go through his journal and you see all these drawings of Rose. Like, oh my god. High tier. And I have to go to the bathroom so fucking badly that I think this is going to be the end of part 1, and we will continue this in part 2. So hope you guys enjoyed.